Anyways, to continue our conversation though, but doing microdose protocol and things like that really does help with anxiety. It also helps with emotional unburdening. It helps with all the things that we were just talking about, because it increases neuroplasticity. And normally one part of your brain and the other part of your brain, they don't really interact with each other. They kind of like are separate little beings. When you add microdosing or psilocybin into the mix, it allows them to connect because it splits off your default mode network, which is your ego kind of, and not your ego like I'm all that in a bag of chips, but like your ego part of your brain that protects you. It kind of puts it offline a little bit, so that you can be more open and receptive to new thoughts and ideas and new ways of thinking. So it helps you reframe the story that you've told yourself about what's going on in any particular situation, or how you feel about it, or imminent danger, which is part of anxiety, which is you believe there is a thing that's going to hurt you again, even if it's real or imagined at this point, right? So when you're in close calls with things or in spots that give you panic, it's because your brain has decided 2 tracks down the snow in the ice ruts, you're not getting out of it. This is what's going to happen next. With microdose, it actually basically is like a blizzard on the mountain, and you can ski wherever you want, and you can reframe the story you told yourself about what's causing panic or anxiety or any of those things. So it's really, really cool how it does that. And it also increases longevity, helps with some dementia, Alzheimer's, and things like that. So because it rewires your neural network, it increases the health and longevity of your brain as well. While you're at it, helping work through traumatic events, PTSD, depression, all that stuff. So it's really, really cool stuff. And which is why I'm out here educating everybody about it, because I love it and it speaks to me, and it's my favorite thing on the planet. It's so effective for helping people get through and reformat what their brain is telling them, because your brain's a big fat liar, right? It only knows the story the way that you perceive it through filters that were put into you from the time you were a child. So it only can perceive the world via the filter that you've formed throughout your life, specifically starting in childhood going forward and when things happen. So then all of a sudden that's your filter, and that's how you see the world, and that's how you filter the world. So you have a hard time reformatting that story, and it's always a lie because it's always through a filter that isn't true. So that's what's so weird and I guess semi entertaining about it to me, and entertaining not in like a haha way, but more of a like interesting, fascinating way. Hi, Bern. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. I appreciate you having me. Thank you. Hello, everyone.
Hi. We're just here because we're getting close to the holidays. I don't really have a topic to talk about today. I'm more just talking to people about like what they have going on and how microdosing and or macrodosing could help them with their particular thing. We were just talking about anxiety and like PTSD, things like that. Is there anything you're experiencing that you wanted to talk about, Bern?
Yeah, thank you for just a brief update and welcome. For me, I was diagnosed with CPTSD stemming from childhood about 7 years ago. I've not done any kind of drugs per se. I use meditation, lots of mindfulness, but I think I've gotten to the point where I need something else. I noticed the hyper-reactivity is still an issue for me. And so just looking for more inner peace, being able to be more resilient in my relationships, that sort of thing.
Yeah, perfect. It's all going together, you guys. Look at this. Isn't it crazy? So, as I was just explaining, the key thing with microdosing is that you have to be willing to do the work. And it seems like you're already doing some of the things that are recommended: journaling, meditation, being real with your feelings, being able to, oh, she left, be able to sit in your feelings, things like that. So, back to what we were just talking about is that if you're willing to lean in and do those kind of things, you'll get really great results. If you're one of those people that like thinks it's a magic button, it doesn't. It's not that. And so back to the neuroplasticity. Oh, here she comes back. There she is. Okay, there you go,
Oh,
Bert.
sorry about that. I'm not familiar with this platform. I was trying to make it bigger and somehow I hit something and
Good.
I got disconnected. Anyway, I don't want to be disruptive, so I'll just listen.
Disruptive. We're just chatting here. So What I was talking about is if you're willing to lean and do the work, which you're already doing some of that meditation, journaling, things like that. If you're willing to do these kind of things, go sit with your emotion, be okay with sitting in your emotion and being very real about them. It is a super effective method for helping manage these kinds of things. It increases neuroplasticity. I've said this like 8 times. It increases neuroplasticity and it allows your brain to rewire the story it tells itself. And so when you have PTSD, chances are really good whatever caused that, it's not happening again, right? It was usually a one and done thing, unless you're in war, in which case it's a period of time that's a one and done thing, but then it's done, right? But you still get the same fear, flight or flight response, which is what PTSD is, right? It's like, oh, shoot, the thing that happened is going to happen again. Here's all the signs. I'm going to freak out, go into fight or flight, and go on level 9. And so you have to reformat that story that lets your body know to downregulate and understand that that's not happening again. And it's really hard to do that if your brain is in this plastic mode where it believes the story it's told itself. It's in the ruts. It's just like, I can't get out of this. I don't understand how it could be different, because it's not conscious, it's subconscious. If it was conscious, you'd just be like, hey, brain, calm down. Everything's fine, right? And then we'd all move on with our lives. Unfortunately, a little brain has a little subconscious buddy who doesn't listen to reason and is here to protect and save you, which is why this stuff happens. It's trying to keep you safe. And so when we can go talk to that subconscious portion of your brain and go, hey, buddy, I know you're here trying to protect, but those things aren't happening anymore. So the story is different. And so we don't need to freak out when these things happen. You're just picking up on patterns that are no longer true. And then we can work through what is the new pattern and what is the new truth. And then you can kind of let that stuff go, reduce your anxiety, reduce the panic, reduce the level 9 nervous system, and end up in a really peaceful, centered place. It's great. It's really great stuff. What questions do you guys have?
I'm not really familiar with the difference between what would be considered microdosing and macrodosing. Is there like a set amount that's considered, a starting point, and then you go up from there? I know with medications, you kind of titrate up or titrate down. So I didn't know if there was something similar to that when it comes to the actual dosing. Is there like a schedule that would be followed?
Yeah, there's definitely a schedule that gets followed. There's several protocols, and we could walk through them all, but it's basically 1 day on, 2 days off, or 2 days on, 1 day off, or some people do 5 days on and 2 days off. The reason you do that is because you do build up a little bit of a tolerance to it, and it keeps you from having that tolerance. And also it has an extended life. So it's not like it goes away if you don't take it for a day or 2. It kind of tapers off, right? A microdose is a sub-perceptual dose, which means you're not seeing dragons in the refrigerator, right? Nothing's moving around. You're not seeing stuff. It's 0.1 to I would say 0.4, 0.5 milligrams, which is less than a gram, right? It's 1/10 of a gram or 1/2 of a gram or less. And it doesn't mess you up. You can drive, you can work, you can function properly. Most people take it at night before they go to bed also. So you go to sleep, it doesn't sting while you're sleeping. You wake up in the morning and carry on with your day. There is a midi dose, which some people do, which is somewhere around 1 gram to 1.5 grams, which puts you in a perceptual dose, but not all the way in what's called a journey space. So you're still cognizant and you can work through some stuff with a practitioner or a guide, right? But you're not like all the way in like you would be on a journey dose. A journey dose is 2 to 3 grams or more, depending on your practitioner. Some people fight it because you can fight it, and they will need a little bit higher dose when they do a journey dose because their brain fights it because they don't want to go deal with this stuff. And it takes a little bit more to get them into that journey space. So there's varying doses. On the midi dose and the macro dose, you don't do that a couple days on, a couple days off because you'd be whacked out of your brain, right? You do that like maybe once a month, maybe once every couple months as you work through bigger things in combination with microdose typically. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Cool.
Is it forever then, or is it just until you work through issues and then you can like get off of it in a couple years, or is it like once you start doing it, you stay with it forever? Or?
Yes, the answer is yes to all of that. It's a personal choice and how you feel. So some people, like myself, I've been taking it for 4 years just because I like the way I feel. My mood is good. I feel good. It's a choice. Sometimes I go for periods of time and I don't take any. And then there's other periods of time where I take it pretty consistently. It's just how my body feels. Other people will take it to work through some stuff and they'll stop for a while and they come back. And then there's people that take it pretty consistently, indefinitely, because they just like how they feel on it. Because it just makes your brain feel good. And it's not like you're high, because you're not high. Okay. So I don't want it to be like, you just take it because you feel good. It's, your mood's good. You feel at peace. You feel calm. All these emotions that we're seeking all the time, you stay kind of in that space. And so some people want to take it for a while and some people don't. It's up to you, personal choice.
Mm. So if it's rewiring your brain, I understand that, it lowers your, it impacts your DMT. Default mode network, the default mode network, and basically different areas of your brain, they're talking to each other. So it's not a permanent fix then at any point. If you continue to do it, why wouldn't you feel inner peace if it's, changing your brain? At some point, is there a point where it just, you're done, or you're not reverting back to old patterns, if you will?
So the reverting back to old patterns. Okay. So what the microdose does is it allows that neuroplasticity and forms new neural networks. It's up to you, which is why you got to do the work. It's up to you to reformat the story, right? It just like builds the highway. It's up to you to drive the car down the highway. Okay.
Mm.
And so it's much like everything. It's like, if you repeat it enough times, it becomes permanent, like any habit, anything, right? So if you go to the gym and you lift weights one day, you're not going to have a ripped body. But if you go to the gym consistently and not every day, you're going to end up with muscles, right? It's kind of the same idea, is that the highway's there. You just have to keep driving down it for a period of time for it to become a thing. So if you are a person who works out all the time, right? And then you stop working out, your body has muscle memory and you can just pick up a weight again later and get in shape faster than somebody who never worked out. Same idea, except it's in your brain. Does that help?
Yes, that helps. So when you say, obviously, you're not lifting weights, so that means if a situation arises, how I respond to it and what I think about it?
Yep. And which is why journaling and meditation and things are important. So if you are in that space where you have new highways and you aren't just driving a muscle memory and going to the gym like you do every morning because you're really meant to go to the post office, you have to consciously think, I'm going to the post office for a little while until you reprogram your brain that that's what we do now. Yeah.
Learn to work through it while you're microdosing, so that way when you're not on it, it's easier to focus and work through that same issue.
You got it. You just retrain your brain that now this time of day, we're not driving to the gym, we're driving to the post office. And after you do it a couple times, then you just naturally do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah. I guess, is there any negative health effects? Is there
something to be concerned about, or interactions with any other medications that you're aware of?
Yes, there are interactions with medications. And so when you do a conversation and intake with me, there is a medical form that you have to fill out, and then we'll go over any of those interactions. If you're on lithium is one of them, it's a no-no because it can give you serotonin syndrome. So you don't do that. And also if you're bipolar, you shouldn't do microdosing or psilocybin of any fashion because it could put you into a psychotic state, they say. There's a couple other indications of antidepressants. On microdose isn't as big of a deal, but on a macrodose it for sure is. So you have to be very aware of that. Some ADHD medications, stuff like that. But there is, as far as I know, and I'm not a medical professional, I'm going to put that out there, but as far as I know, there are no negative effects that are known. It doesn't really interact with a lot of stuff, with the exception of lithium and bipolar are big contradictions. But outside of that, there really aren't a lot of things that it has a problem with because it's natural. It's not chemically synthesized. It does sit on the serotonin receptors in your brain. But again, if you're not in like an extensive amount of antidepressants and stuff like that, it's pretty safe stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
I asked the question when I signed up for the meeting. How often is it that you take your first, dose and don't feel anything? What was your experience? Did you feel a shift immediately or did it take some time?
You don't feel anything, period. What you do notice is that your mood is more steady, that your anxiety lowers. You notice that stuff. You don't actually feel like you don't take it and then feel something. That's not how it works. It builds up over time. And so you'll notice after a week or two that your mood will shift, your anxiety will lower, all these things, but it is in conjunction with that work I'm talking about, in addition to being consistent with your dosing schedule. So you won't wake up one day like SSRIs and be like, Yahtzee, I'm healed. It just doesn't work like that. It's just, gradual over time. But you will wake up one day after a couple weeks and be like, I just feel better. I just feel good. I just feel calm and at peace. I just feel like in my body. But it isn't like that. It isn't like a flip of a switch or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
What is the average time before somebody does start to notice it? Is it something that they notice? Because not everything works for everybody. Is it, if we do it for a month and we find that it's not working, do we say, okay, maybe I'm not a candidate for that? Or is there a longer period of time before you say that? Or is it something that really works for everybody?
So far, everybody I've worked with has had good results. But like I said, in the first month or so, 6 weeks, pretty intense. And we talk about it a lot. And we're like, maybe you need to increase your dose. Maybe you need to lower your dose. Maybe you need to do the 2 days on, 1 days off. Maybe you need to, do 5 days and 2 days off because maybe you're stressed out at work and that's what you need. So we do a lot of tweaking about what's going on as we go to get you in that sweet spot. And once you're in the sweet spot, wow, it's so good.
Okay.
Sometimes yes, sometimes no, because sometimes you're dealing with your emotions because they're coming up, right? And you're doing the work. And so sometimes, when you deal with your emotions, you don't get very good sleep. But in general, yes, you have good sleep. It doesn't disturb it unless you're really working through some things, which would happen anyway, where you get a little sleepless. But in general, yeah, you sleep pretty solidly.
Okay.
Have good dreams too. The dreams are fun.
Mm-hmm.
No, you don't see wackadoo shit. I don't mean it that way, but they're very good dreams, and I generally remember my dreams more so than when I'm not microdosing, and they're really like vividly colored and things like that, which makes it fun for me. I'm just like, I was wearing a red dress and running through a field of sunflowers, and they're the brightest yellow I've ever seen, and I was so happy, stuff like that. That's a no.
What dosage did you start at? Oh, I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, burn first. Rachel second, go.
I was curious to know what dosage you started at, and did you tweak to a higher dose?
Yeah, I started out at 0.1 of a gram, so 100 milligrams. I generally go between 250 and 500 milligrams personally, depending on what I'm working on or working through. That's my sweet spot, but I also have ADHD pretty bad. So it helps with that as well for me. So I get a 2-punch. I get to work on my stuff, and also I get better sleep. So my ADHD isn't as impactful as it is when I don't sleep. If I don't sleep, my ADHD is awful. So twofold. I utilize it for that. I also take some other supplements for my ADHD. So I take some omega-3s. I take L-tyrosine, which is a serotonin rebuilder. I take magnesium at night. So I have a stack of stuff that I kind of take with my microdose. But yeah, that's generally about where I'm at. So that's how I utilize it. And I don't, like, again, even at half a gram, I don't get perceptual anything going on. It's not like I don't get high off it or anything. I just, I just sleep well, soundly, comfortably, without, waking up 10,000 times with my little brain going about everything that's ever happened in my life and what I should have done. Yeah. And my grocery list, and also that there's socks on the bedroom floor, the normal stuff for eating. You know, right? You know, there is no executive function. Everything's an emergency.
Right. ADHD is it's rough to explain to somebody who doesn't have it.
Uh-huh.
what it's like. Yeah.
Yeah, you're just like, oh, there's socks on the living room floor, and I'm going to die now because it's the biggest emergency in life. And the house is on fire, but I'll get to that next.
Right.
Maybe, unless I forget and go clean the kitchen cupboard. I don't know.
Does it help with ADHD?
This stack that I have, yeah. So anybody I work with that has
But the
ADHD,
microdosing doesn't.
the microdosing does, because you get better sleep and it calms your brain a bit and all the things
okay.
like that. There's also other things that you can use in conjunction with it that help it work better.
Okay.
Is dreaming normal when you have it, when you take it? I don't dream, so I don't know what that's like.
You have dreams. If you didn't, you'd be cuckoo. You just don't remember them. Everybody has to go into REM sleep, because if you don't, you'll go crazy. So you just don't remember your dreams, and it's probably if you have ADHD, because your sleep wake cycle is weird. So you sleep and wake and sleep and wake and sleep and wake. Does that happen for you?
Yeah, I'm up 5, 7, 8 times a night. Like every 2 hours, I'm awake.
So you're in that space where you're getting into REM and maybe having some dreams, and then when you come out of REM, instead of sleeping again, you wake up, which is probably why you don't remember your dreams, because your sleep wake cycle is weird.
Okay.
Yeah, it happens. Fern, did you want to ask a question too?
No, I'm just listening. Thanks.
Does taking this affect that sleep cycle? Is that what you mean when you say you get better sleep? You have a longer,
Yeah,
sleep longer through that cycling. Okay.
yep, it definitely helps with that. Definitely. But especially if you layer in some magnesium with it at night, it really helps you sleep better.
Okay. I take that. It
Yeah.
helps a little bit. I have noticed. I take a couple of different things. I'm big on multivitamins and different vitamins for things. I know a lot of people don't get enough nutrients in their body, and so I take like zinc or selenium. I take a couple of different things to try and provide my body the nutrients that it needs. Do you notice any? I want to say side effects that are not necessarily negative, but just unique. Like, oh, sometimes people are extra thirsty during this time, or they find that it changes their eating habits a little bit, or they're more hungry in the morning time when they normally weren't, or that type of a thing.
It's more dealing with the emotion that that's gonna come up. There's a reason you have anxiety. There's a reason you have PTSD. There's a reason, right? That's emotional things going on in your body. You hold that trauma in your body. And as you work through it, the emotions come out. And that's really the biggest side effect, is sometimes people, it's not like you get swamped by your emotions, but you definitely have them come up. And you'll have emotional days where you'll just cry for no reason. Not necessarily like you can't control it, but you'll just be emotional and you'll just cry. Because it needs to come out. It needs a release in your body. And so as you work through this stuff, you may notice a little bit of more emotionalness with your body and yourself. Especially us ladies, if you're in the menopause era, menopause already throws you through a freaking loop, and you got hot flashes and all this other weird shit going on. And then you're dealing with a little bit of emotional stuff. So sometimes you can get a little bit more emotional, not angry per se, but just a little more emotional as the stuff comes up and you deal with it. But when we have skill sets that I teach you on how to like treat emotions, because they're very fleeting. They only last a couple minutes. It's the story you tell yourself about the emotion that really like kicks your ass. So I teach you some skills that just like you just observe it and you let it be and you experience it, and then it passes in a couple minutes without telling the story, making it bigger, making it smaller, or any judgment about it. You just let it happen. And then when it happens, you can then write about it or talk about it or whatever makes you feel good. And then you stop assigning all this value to an emotion, like, oh, I shouldn't be crying. That's stupid. What am I crying about? Because I dropped a pitcher on the floor, or whatever it is you did. We tell our stories, right? Instead, you're just like, oh, I'm crying. Okay, I'm going to cry right now. And then you get it out. And then you're like, okay, that's done. What happened that made me get there? And then you stop being in this like really whacked out emotional state as much, because you retrain yourself to treat emotions as like anything, like a sneeze. You know, when you sneeze, you don't tell yourself the whole story. Like, oh God, I should chop down all the trees because of the pollen, and it's my fault because I planted the tree 12 years ago, and oh my God, and I can't believe I did that. And that's what we do with our emotions, but we don't do it with something perfectly natural like a sneeze, right? You just sneeze, get it over with, blow your nose and move on. And that's emotions as well. They come up for a reason, and you should be aware of them, but we don't have to treat them like it's like the end of the world. And we've been taught to do that. It's really not. It's just the thing that happened. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. Cool. Anything else?
Else?
I can think of right now.
Fern, do you have any more?
Is there anything that you would, I guess, what made you decide this was your passion? What really got you to get into this being your passion?
Cool. All right. This is a good story. I experienced a very, very traumatic childhood. A very traumatic childhood. Lots of bad things happened to me. In my adulthood, lots more bad things happened to me. I had a very close person who died, a whole bunch of stuff. I ended up 3-4 years ago in a very dissociated state. I did not experience emotions. I didn't cry. I didn't get mad. I didn't anything. I just was very dissociated. I was also 100 pounds overweight, and very much in a workaholic state because I stayed busy, and that's how I proved my worth to the world. And then 4 years ago, I went to a women's retreat because I was like, if this is what life is about, I don't want to do it anymore. And I wasn't going to hurt myself. But on the same note, I was like, I'm unfulfilled. I feel empty. This sucks. And if all I do every day is get up and make money and then go to bed, and this is what my life is, no husband, no kids, no close relationships really to speak of, some friends, but not really close to them. I was like, this sucks and I don't want to do it. So I went to this women's retreat being like, whatever happens here happens. I don't care because it can't be worse than what's going on now. And I ended up doing a psilocybin journey, 2-day retreat. I did it 2 days in a row, broke the damn free, bawled my face off for, I don't even know how many hours, 6, 7 hours. I don't even know. I've never cried so hard in my life. Opened up that dissociative state. And then I started to be able to work on myself, observe myself, love myself, because I had thought I was not lovable as a human. Like nobody could love me because of all the trauma I had been through. And broke the damn free. And since then, I've done about 30 journeys myself, and microdosing since then. And now I'm 100 pounds lighter. I have a very full life. I have all these really important, amazing people around me, a support system. I don't hate myself anymore. I don't abuse my body anymore. And I just feel like a happy, whole person. And I thought to myself, if I could have this experience, and I was guided by people that didn't do all this integration and coaching and stuff, then imagine what I can do for other people to help them experience that same wholeness and that same authenticity that I now get to experience. And so I just decided I'm going to do that and bring it to the world.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, super important for me. Like,
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. You said you did 30, is it journeys?
Yeah.
Can I ask you why so many?
Yes, I had a lot of trauma to work through. I actually just did one Saturday night because I ended up breaking up with my boyfriend and I wasn't dealing with it well. I was in shutdown mode again. And I was like, okay, we're not going to do this. I'm not going to shut down. I'm not going to not deal with this. I'm going to go figure it out. Why am I shutting down? And so I did one Saturday night and went and dealt with my feelings and met them and figured out what was going on and, you know, all the things. So anytime I'm up against something where I go back to that dissociative state or repeat old patterns or whatever, or get stuck, that's where I turn. Rather than being self-destructive or internalizing my feelings and squashing them down. It's been over the course of 4 years, so it's not like I'm doing like 1,000 or anything, but it seems like a big number. But it's been really, and I did a whole bunch the first year and then fewer over the next couple of years. Not to say I'm like throwing them at the wall like this, but I had a lot of things I really needed to work on so I could figure out how to love myself. It was,
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And I'm not suggesting anybody else needs to do that many. It's just, me, when I'm me, I go ADHD, I go hog wild. I'm like, it fixed one thing, it'll fix everything. Let's go.
So
It's not just me, it's the ADHD.
Go ahead, Grace.
So do you think then, is it conceivable that someone could heal strictly on microdosing and never venture into the macrodosing, space.
Yes, absolutely. As long as you're willing to do the work, you can do it any which way you want to, whatever feels right to you. And there's never any pressure to do anything that doesn't feel like it's got to be a full body fuck yes, or don't do it. That's just my rule. Is if you feel your heart and it doesn't feel like a full body fuck yes, don't. And it will call to you. And if it's what you're meant to do, you'll do it. And if it's not, you won't. And so yes, you can heal in any space you want to heal in. It's just some of these modalities make it a little easier on you and a little easier to get there a little more quickly.
Thank you.
Express lane.
Guys?
The express lane.
Yeah. Yeah. Like a journey is like 10 years of therapy in like 10 hours. It's pretty intense, but it's 10 years of therapy in 10 hours. So you can knock some shit out there.
You do it on your own?
Do I? Yes, I do sometimes. I don't typically. Okay, I'm gonna back up the bus. Have I done it on my own? Yes. Do I typically do it on my own? No, I don't prefer that. I actually prefer to have somebody there with me, so I'm not stuck in my own thought pattern. So a guide is helpful because they can help you. They don't tell you what to do. Like no guides should tell you what to do. They shouldn't be like, "Burn, look, dude, that's just ludicrous, right?" That's not my job. My job is to help you self-reflect so that you can look at yourself and what you're saying, and then ask yourself if that's actually true or untrue, and then reformulate your thoughts. And a good qualified guide will help you do that. So they keep your boat in the river steadily, but they don't tell you how to drive it because that's just, it's not up to them. It's up to you.
Do you think that individually, or is this something that you would do as a group? And what I mean like that is it something that we would do as a couple if we were both working on things? Or let's, our relationship, if we were working on that, would that be something that we would do together? Or is that more an individual type activity?
Yes, both.
Okay.
Depends. Especially with couples, as long as you guys are in a good enough space that you won't be mean to each other while you're doing it. So it depends on where you're at in your relationship. So if you're working on stuff and you just want to be closer and work on your love story and all the things and work through some stuff and whatever, and it could be even a little minor conflict, that's cool. If you're on the verge of divorce and you're trying to murder each other, that's a terrible idea. Because what will happen is you'll get in medicine and you'll just like go at each other, which is not a good space to be in. It's not good for anybody. So it's up to the practitioner you work with to help you with that, to be like, probably individually you need to work out some stuff before you go together, because right now you're just not in a healthy headspace to do that. So not yet, but if you're in a good space and you just kind of want to work through some stuff or come closer or any of those things, you absolutely can. And I've done journeys with groups of 8 and me, and I've done journeys myself. So it just varies. We have sometimes groups of people want to do it together because they just feel safer and more comfortable that way, versus being by themselves because they get a little nervous and a little scared about that. So it's really up to you. And it's also up to the practitioner, because the practitioner needs to talk to the people and make sure that that's going to be okay, even in a group dynamic, not in relationship, right? People that are just together, you have to touch base and like feel if that feels appropriate, because you don't want somebody, it's about set and setting. You don't want somebody that, super negative or in a bad space to impact the others in a negative way. So you just want to like make sure that you have a trusted practitioner that can make that judgment call with you, so that it's not harmful.
Okay. Do you find that individual seems to be more effective than in a group, or is it about the same as long as the group is appropriate?
So the individual is more one-on-one attention. So you get more attention to work through specifically your stuff. And what happens sometimes in group is that the people worry about taking away from each other and they don't ask for help. Because they get worried about that. Like, oh, wait, you have 4 other people. I don't want to take away from their experience. And so you have to have an accord. You have to have a conversation. You have to be real about it, and make sure there's enough support there for everybody that's there. It works as effectively either way, but one-on-one is 100% support with you doing your thing only. Groups is spread out, and everybody has their stuff going on. So it's a judgment call. Either one is very effective, though. I mean, my best breakthrough was in a group, and I just, sat on a couch and snot bubbled for hours, and whatever. And I got, I obviously got attention and I got help, but like, I mean,
While you're dealing with yourself, the practitioner could move on to that next person to make that group still effective. Okay.
Yeah. So it's very impactful either way. But to me, one-on-one, you just get more attention and you get more like focused. So it's good. It's good either way. Why not?
Just not.
I think I heard you say you microdose at night. I thought the recommended time is generally morning.
Some people do recommend that. I personally prefer to do it at night. That's my preference. It makes me sleepy, just to be fair, and I don't want to be sleepy during the day. So
Okay.
I prefer to do it at night. Some people say, and there are some different strains of psilocybin as well that are more focused and higher energy than others that are more introspective. I take the more introspective ones, so it makes me sleepy, and I don't want to wake up and be sleepy. I get up at 5 a.m. and go to the gym and all kinds of stuff. So the last thing I want is to be tired.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so that's just my personal preference. Again, you just kind of mess with it to get to your sweet spot, what feels good for you. I'm not huge on saying like, here's the box, you must stay within it. These are the rules, because every person is different in how they react to it, how they feel about it, if it makes them sleepy, if it makes them energized. You just kind of got to feel it out and find out what's good for you.
Got it. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
I do have one more question. Do you find that somebody who's had no experience with this responds better than people who have had experience with it in the past? Let's just say you were young and wild as a kid, and you had, it wouldn't have been I would not know. I'm not speaking about myself, but I went to school, in a public school, and some of those kids were wild and trying all kinds of different things, including this, just for fun. So do you find that if somebody's done that in their past, that it's less effective or more effective? Does that have any effect on how it goes for them?
No, the only impact it has is they're less nervous about it, right?
Okay.
I did do this as a teenager a couple times, and 1 or 2 times as an adult as well. So when I went to the journey space, I wasn't nervous because I already knew what was going to happen, right? I'd already done this before. So I wasn't nervous about how it was going to impact me or what I was going to see or whatever. If you've never done it before and you do a macrodose, lots of people get scared because they're like, well, I'm going to see dragons in the refrigerator and all this weird stuff's going to happen, and I'm nervous, right? That's not actually how it works, but they get nervous because they haven't had the experience. It's like drinking alcohol, right? Before you drink the first time, it's hard to explain what is being drunk like. But once you've been drunk once, you're like, oh, I get it. This is what it's like. It's not a big deal, but this is how it is. It's kind of like that. And so new people get a little nervous. It's a little jittery, a little fluttery. But once you experience it one time, you're just like, oh, well, no big deal. Like, yeah, things move around a little bit, but I know that that's supposed to happen, and so it's whatever.
Okay.
And the more you do it, the easier it is to drop in, which is what they call it when you go in. Because your nervousness, your adrenaline delays that a little bit, but I have tricks in my bag for that. Keep them distracted. You just talk a lot, and then you don't pay attention. Because if you're paying attention and focused on it, your adrenaline gets going, and then it takes a little bit longer to kick in. But other than that, there's really nothing. And even an experienced person like myself, Saturday, I didn't really want to deal with my shit. I'll be the first one to admit it's not fun for that. So I was fighting it. So it took me longer to drop in than it normally would. So yeah. So even me knowing what's going to happen, I just didn't want to deal with my feelings. So I was being a little chicken butt about it. And then when I did, I was like, that was it. So I just had to cry a little bit. Dang it.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
So I did ketamine 3 years ago because, like I said, I have never done drugs. I'm a light drinker, so I was nervous about not being in a controlled environment. And for me, what I was hoping for didn't happen. I mean, I certainly tripped, and I remember seeing all kinds of things and feeling really uninhibited. But yeah, so I think I did 3 or 4 sessions over a course of several weeks or something. They space them out. Um, my understanding of microdosing is, for me, I'm trying to modify, my concept of myself and how I react to things, or what they call habit patterns. Ketamine, I thought, was supposed to do that, but it didn't. I just experienced, feeling, just kind of like escaping. And then, once I got it out of that physiological, feeling of it, I was fine and life resumed, but I didn't see any, long-term benefits from it.
Did you
There's
do integration calls afterward to talk about what happened, or did you just like do the treatment and then go home?
Yeah, my niece and I are very close. She's a therapist. She knows my story. She's only 12 years younger than me, so we're really close. And I journal extensively. I'm very self-aware, very spiritual. So really, I didn't get any big downloads. I've done a lot of work on myself. So
Good.
it's more like the reactivity. Like that's the part that because that is, coming from, a default that happens so quickly. I'm not, I'm high processing. I do, I'm of course, a miracle student. I understand that my reality, I created. Anything that happens to me, it's because of my thought pattern. So I'm not in the blame, shame, none of that. So in, in an intellectual state, I understand myself fully, and I'm not sitting here, oh, this happened to me, victim consciousness, any of that. But when I get activated because I was abused, it's when I feel threatened, and it's not really from a space of me saying, oh, this is dangerous. It just comes on me. You know what I'm saying? So that's the part that I'm interested in this medication for, is the part that when I'm, that I'm not really able to control. And, if something could happen with my brain that has stored this memory so deep, and, defaults and reacts, when it perceives that I'm unsafe, that's the part that's intriguing to me.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing, and I may or may not be right or wrong, okay? But what I'm hearing is you've tried to logic your way into the subconscious. Um, you have a very logical and very like coordinated manner in which you're addressing some of the things, which is awesome. But you're logicking with a subconscious program, because obviously this isn't conscious. Was you fix it? And so you're trying to logic a subconscious program, and so it may require a little bit deeper meaning and understanding, and maybe some parts work. Are you familiar with integrated family systems?
Yep, I've done all that too.
Yes.
Yep.
So it requires some of that deeper parts work, and you may be protecting it with a wall or a block for some reason, because some part of your identity is tied to that. But we'd have to go a little deeper and figure this out. But definitely, it's something that can be rooted out, because it is a subconscious program you've got running that you're not going to logic your way out of it, because it doesn't make sense. We have to figure out what's the root cause of why you're holding on to this protective pattern, and how do we get that protective pattern to stand down, and then reprogram the protectiveness in a more meaningful and useful way. So that's just high level, because I don't know you at all, and we haven't dug into what's going on. But high level, lots of people do that. I do that even, is try to logic my way out of why I'm doing this or how, and blah, 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 which is why I couldn't cry. It's because I try to logic my way through it and be like, this is not worth crying about, and there are real things in this world, and blah, 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 whatever. But with some work and some integration parts, you can get there. It's just going to require a little bit of a dig to see why you're hanging on to that so tight in your subconscious program, and what is it actually trying to protect you from, because it might not be what you think it is.
Mm-hmm. Is that conceivable with micro, or is it more of a macro, journey?
It'd be both, but definitely you could do it either way, as long as you're willing to do the work burn. Like, I have no doubt in my mind you will go dig this out with a little spoon and make it happen. So either way with you could do that, unless you have a really serious block and you may need to go in a little harder. but we would determine that as we went. But you should be able to get.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Is this something that would integrate with the therapies that I'm currently going through? So is this something that I would discuss with my talk therapist and let them know, hey, this is what I'm doing? Is that something where I would get them involved in one of our sessions? Do you speak with them, or am I the go between in between, or how would that work with currently ongoing therapies that we have?
So typically I don't talk to them, but I can. It's not like I can't. But we give you integration plans and all kinds of things like that. So you would be able to take that with them and show them like what we're doing, so they can understand. At any point in time, I would talk to them gladly. But it all works in conjunction with one another. Like nobody is a standalone, solution to the problem. And if you're working with people, you want your team to be working together so everybody understands and is hauling on the same end of the rope and not working contrary to one another. And
Right.
so more transparency is better. And then also that your team is all working together to get you where you want to go. And that everybody's aware of what everybody else is doing to some extent. Like they don't have to report to me, like, whatever, but they should know, they should be informed of the work you're doing on this side.
Okay.
For sure. Anything else, guys?
No, thank you.
I think so. I don't know. Is there anything else that we haven't asked that people normally ask?
Well, people normally ask all kinds of crazy stuff. The biggest one they usually ask is it going to give them gastrointestinal upset and are they going to puke all over the place? And I'm like, yeah, no, it's not ayahuasca, it's mushrooms. Some people do throw up, but not from microdosing. In journey space, sometimes you have to purge, but that's the question I get a lot is that people are, and then they're like, also, am I going to say or do things that I don't remember saying or doing? And I'm like, no, you're in complete control of yourself the entire time. You're not like whacked out of your head. You know what you're doing and you know where you're at. So those are the two big questions I get, excuse me, from people all the time. Is just like they think they're going to say things, tell secrets they don't want to tell, or they have no control of themselves, and none of that's true. That's not how it works.
Okay.
If you took like 10 grams or something, maybe you'd get in that space, but I don't even know if you'd be able to talk if you took 10 grams. You're so inward that you're just kind of like laying there and hanging out. So I'm not even sure in that case you'd say some things, but it's very unlikely. But those are the ones everybody always asks is like, am I going to take my clothes off and run through the streets? And I'm like, no, absolutely not.
Darn it.
Yeah, no fun and games here. It's all serious business. All right, guys.
I think that's all I have.
All right.
I don't think I have any other questions at this time.
Awesome, guys. Vern, do you want to have any further conversation with me outside of this?
So yeah, did I miss in the beginning where you talked about, your services? So are you an integration coach? And, did you talk about that?
Just a second. We're streaming live right now, so I'm going to end that. So hang tight for 1 second. Hopefully it doesn't kick you out of here.